We'll start here. Well, I'd like to welcome you. Thank you for coming out tonight. What we're going to discuss a little bit is this is our zoning comprehensive revision kickoff meetings. I'm Dean Johnson. If you do not know me, I'm the zoning administrator for Marathon County. Jeff Pritchard is a planning analyst for Marathon County. We're going to be the ones that are going to be out most of the time talking with everybody, working on this directly. Lane Loveland in the back, he's our zoning or land use specialist. And then Paul Daigle is our program or land and water program manager here. So tonight, this is our first one. Here we have 5 other ones that we're going to be doing. All the meetings are going to be the same. The presentations will be the same. We're out here promoting the zoning comprehensive revision, and we've stressed as staff to use zoning comprehensive revision as the title of this, so it's not confused with comprehensive plan revision or anything like that. So it's the zoning comprehensive revision, or ZCR. So in our office, we've stressed highly about being honest, kind, respectful, setting a few ground rules for tonight. We wish to bring those here as part of the discussions, along with all ideas will be considered and recorded. We want to hear from everybody, and we ask that there's no personal attacks and keep things general when we get into the discussion points. So with the rules in mind tonight, we're going to go over the following. Just a brief zoning in Wisconsin and Marathon County, so everybody has a little background on where we're at. Relationships between the town and the counties, text amendments versus comprehensive revision. We'll have a short exercise with audience participation. And then how to stay up to date on the revision process. There's 3 types of zoning you've probably heard about in Marathon County. We have shoreline, floodplain, and then general or comprehensive. All 3 of these are going to be touched in the next year to 18 months. Tonight, when we're talking the zoning or ZCR, we're mostly talking about the general or the comprehensive. So, history of zoning in Wisconsin. Zoning in Milwaukee actually first had it in the 1920s, the first zoning ordinance. Then in 1929, authority was given to actually regulate in the rural areas, which then Oneida County was the first one to adopt a rural zoning ordinance, and that was in 1933. Then there's a jump to 1968 where all local governments were required to administer shoreline and floodplain zoning regulations. No matter if you had regular comprehensive zoning or not, you were still required to do those as part of there. Then 1977, Farmland Preservation Law came into effect, and then 1999, the Comprehensive Planning Law, and that's where we had all of the comprehensive planning meetings at that time between 1999 and 2000. So why do we have zoning? It is one of the tools to achieve community goals as identified in your comprehensive plan. Comprehensive plan is the roadmap for the community. It answers the questions of what we want the community to look at or look like in the future as preferred place to live, work, visit, and do business. Every municipality has this plan and vision of what they want to see their municipality look like, and it is different. Some may want to have industry coming in portions. Some of them may want to have all ag, residential. Everybody has a little bit different. So what do we look like today? the zoning status, Marathon County, many of you have probably seen this map before. The yellow ones here are the towns that are under county zoning, have adopted county zoning. The grayish, which doesn't come through, Bergen, Emmett, Castle, Ringgold, Easton, are all that are under town zoning. And then the white ones are actually, have no zoning. And how that breaks down is we have 18 county zone towns, 16 town zoned, and 7 towns that have no zoning. In all of those, we do have the shoreline and floodplain regulations that Marathon County administers in those areas. Out of those 18, 1972 is when Brighton first adopted county zoning. And throughout the years, and even as early as 2001, the town of Halsey is when they adopted into county zoning. So when you have county zoning or any zoning, how does the town and county relation work? It all starts with that town planning committee, and you work with your town board on any of your decisions making. If it's a special exception permit, if it's a rezone, any of those. Then you would go on to the zoning staff, and then from there, depending on what it is, it's going to either go to a board of adjustment or over to what we have as a land conservation and zoning committee, and then to the county board. Difference is when you're talking county zoning, rezones will be going through this avenue. Your appeals and special exceptions would be going through the board of adjustment. So for 40 years, a lot of people have heard, oh, we're going for a text amendment, In 2013, we went out to all the towns, or a bunch of towns, and held what we called zoning for today and tomorrow. Well, we took all those comments and we did a large text amendment change in 2013. Well, now we're here for the tomorrow part. This isn't a text amendment. This is a comprehensive revision to the ordinance. Difference being, we'll go into a little bit, there's some state statutes that have to be met and all that, and there are things that the towns have to do at the end of this, more than just a text amendment. So, but what do we want to do with this comprehensive revision? We've had this ordinance for 40 years. One thing is we want to do is we want to reduce that number of districts that we have. Reduce it down to different, still we have to capture everything, your commercials and your industrials and all that, but reduce them down into more compact number of districts. We're also looking at separating the codes. Right now, the shoreline and floodplain and the general zoning code are all in chapter 17. We're looking at taking the shoreline and floodplain and removing it out of the general code and having 2 separate code ordinances. We look at this as that the shoreline, wetland, and floodplain are state mandated regulations that have to be followed and looked at. This is where we need to focus on education to the public. On the other hand, with the general zoning, this is where our focus can be on going out to the public, looking for citizen participation, asking the questions on there. So it's a little bit different. So we can focus as staff even on the 2 separate ones a little bit. It also makes it a little bit easier for mandated updates, everything like that, where we can take part of the code look at it, and we're not going through the entire thing. If we don't have to change everything, we can work with the towns and educate them on those portions of it. State statutes dictates when a town can actually leave county zoning. And the only time that, once they adopt county zoning, they're into it until there is a comprehensive revision. So this has been tossed around a little bit and makes people nervous sometimes about actually coming into a county zoning now. What we're actually doing is we're actually taking a policy to the Environmental Resources Committee to look at it where there would be a reoccurring revision, a comprehensive revision. We're looking at possibly 10 years, and that's going to be the discussion point, where it would follow the comprehensive planning update. So at those points, we would have to have all the towns re-adopt that zoning. So there would always be that you're not locked in for the rest of the life. And it's not going to be where it's going to be a 10-year period where nothing's going to change. We'll still work on text amendments as we've done in the past there, but that there will be a specific date. We're going to try to put that right into our code as part of that. Other goals of the revisions, we want to restructure the code. Use of conditional use permits instead of having to rezone the properties all the time. Sometimes a town gets a little bit nervous about having to rezone into a certain class or district because there's a laundry list of things that could happen in there. But there are certain activities that they wouldn't mind having allowed. What you can do with a conditional use or a special exception permit is allow that person to do that use there, and then when it would stop, it would go away. But you would still be in that same district. You wouldn't have it, an example would be is if you like ag, your ag district, there was something that was a smaller business that's ag related, they might be able to do that under conditional use. You wouldn't have to change it to a commercial or an industrial type of zoning, which then you open the door for additional uses to come in. That option is always still there. If you wish to rezone those areas, but a conditional use, we look at it as being a little bit where it wouldn't open that door up for all the other things. Because sometimes people get nervous when they want to go to a use that's in one of these higher uses, and then they want it rezoned back, and you can't rezone it back sometimes. Format-friendly hyperlinks. Tables and charts, illustrations, no pyramid zoning is part of it. A lot of this is you're going digital. We want to make it real easy where you can bounce back and forth. Everything is going to be able to flip to it, tabs, pictures, charts. Now if you looked at, have seen our ordinance, everything is written out. We don't have any chart where you can flip to and look at and say, okay, these uses are allowed in these districts as a broad view. We're looking at stuff like that. Illustrations, just to show pictures, different regulations, to make it easier for use. We don't want it just to be all words as part of it. Hyperlinks. We have a couple formats we're looking at. One is actually you click and it takes you right to that definition of the word. You can go right to that section, right out of any of these other, right out of table of contents, and you can bounce around. We know that we have to look at it electronically, but we also know that we have to have it in a paper form also. So we have to get that balance in there because not everybody is able to use always the electronic form. So that's what we're there. Then we're also having a lot of town and citizen involvement as part of this. With workshops, teaching, some of our ideas have come out where we're going to sit down while you guys are talking about what zoning districts you want to be in, working on your maps, talking about how the zoning looks at in comp plan, how those two should be working together. And when you do a rezone and when you're looking at everything there, we want to do educational sessions as part of this also, not just here you need to work on your map part of it. And we know as part of this, we have to find that balance between that individual's property rights and the community's interest. We want to be the safest, most prosperous county, and there's ways of doing that. But we have to balance that with those property rights. Where do we balance out to? We got to come with that medium. And it's not going to be just on our shoulders as staff. We do have a task force that we have put together that are working on this. And they're the ones that will be doing a recommendation to the Land Conservation and Zoning Committee of their thoughts of what we bring back from these meetings, workshops, everything there, along with the actual code. So, an example of what's you're going to see in the next year or so. We're working on this revision this entire year, be 12 months to 18 months. At the end of that period is when Marathon County will, hopefully the county board will adopt the new zoning ordinance. From that point, 1 year time period, we look at it afterwards. So, example is town number 1 would ratify the county zoning ordinance and town zoning map and the new ordinance and map would take effect. So everybody will have to re-adopt and redo their maps, look at it there. But if there's a municipality or town that does not wish to continue in county zoning, they would be under the old county zone code for 1 year after the adoption of the new one. And once that year passes, right now, then they would be out of county zoning. It doesn't say that they have to be in town zoning or anything. They could go to no zoning, they could go to the town zoning after that point. There are legislations that are being placed in, or looked at and stuff every year, which may change that, but at this point, it would be that 1 year period where they would be still under ours, or the county zoning, and it would be under the old code, not what the new adopted code would be. So our staff would be actually regulating 2 separate codes for the year once this takes place. But for a town that wishes to adopt county zoning, is really a fairly simple process. Once the town decides that they wish to continue or come into county zoning, town works with the county to prepare their zoning map. With us, we take that. There's a resolution that we have put together at a town board meeting. The town board would place the resolution as an agenda item. They can vote on it. They would sign it to adopt county zoning and the new map. That would come to the Land Conservation Committee. They would forward it on to the county board for approval. So there's no fees or anything that go along with this to the town. There's just some time and effort that residents and the town board would have into it for doing the maps and doing the town or the meeting itself. So with that, we kind of want to get into a little exercise here, and we want to pick your brains a little bit. So for the exercise, what we want to do is think about a project that has occurred in your area. We're going to talk about different areas that deal with zoning in towns. We want to have you tell us about your views, and then we're going to record those there. So our first one is our community vision. What I want to ask is, what do you see your community looking like in 10 to 15 years? And what we would ask is, you know, we're just going to ask you what your community you represent when you make a comment there, so.
Not all at once.
Where do you see your community going?
Well, if I base our community on what's happened in the last 10 years, there hasn't been lots and lots of growth in that area. I suspect there'll be some more residences move in. That's certainly occurred, but as far as businesses are concerned, I haven't seen a lot of growth in the last 10 years. Businesses,
Okay, so
the ones that are there remain, and
remaining businesses, and a little bit of residential,
there'll be some growth there, I'm sure. Yeah.
and that's Gunther. Mark Gunther next to it.
We also wanted a rural atmosphere,
Okay.
maintain a rural atmosphere.
And that's Gunther also?
Yes.
Yep.
I'm gonna say, we kind of said the rural part, we're a castle,
Okay.
further close down, but we still have a lot of farming, it's just the farming is changing. Little guys are going, bigger ones are taking over, so I see that continuing.
So changing ag?
Changing in ag.
Okay. And that was from Castle. It's a different castle.
Oh, sorry.
Where do you see, Laura, because you're from Rib Mountain, where do you see Rib Mountain in 10 to 15 years?
Well, if we can get past that Granite Peak expansion, who knows? This is a game changer. But I would, believe it or not, I mean, the people of Rib Mountain still like that small town atmosphere. It's not quite as rural perhaps as some of these other towns, but they want to preserve that.
Is this suburban development?
Yeah, but then, you know, with where we are geographically with the highway, you know, we expect to have the business growth and we want that, perhaps more offices. But definitely maintain that separation of the residential from the business, which we've been pretty successful in so far. But, you know, the fear is if the ski hill does go, you know, will that bring some of that commercial over to the west side of the highway, which has been intentionally limited up until now.
So you're looking at balanced growth, preservation of natural resources, everything?
That's balanced growth, that's a perfect way to sum up what my
Okay.
5-minute speech. And I'm just curious if Gunther or Castle is county zoned or town zoned right now? They each have their town in
Yep,
Mountain.
Gunther's under county zone,
Oh.
Dr. County, and Castle is town zone.
Okay.
Are you guys looking at any type of mixed use?
You know, I don't know, because when you think mixed use, you're talking commercial development with some residential.
Right.
You know, you typically would think of higher density residential, medium to
Correct.
higher density, which has not been embraced by our town board up until now.
Okay.
So, I don't know. I think there's definitely some people who would think that's a way to
What
go.
about, planned unit developments?
More like
Different-
condos
Different
and,
housing styles mixed in?
As far as I know, that's-
Simple,
that hasn't really come up. We tend to have a lot of single family, maybe duplexes, but, I have not heard anything about the planned unit development with residential.
Ski out condos.
Would you consider that residential? I would,
And
I
you know,
consider that
Cars
commercial.
actually be into the big condos very soon, so.
Yeah, and I think
Not
that's
so
what
much.
makes Marathon County unique, in that you have certain towns that are experiencing pressure because they're near an urbanized area, or urbanizing area. And you also have areas that are primarily agricultural in their use or practice. So we'll have an interesting time, I think, of balancing the needs of the townships that need a little higher end zoning elements, and then also balancing the towns that simply want to stay the same. That's perfectly fine, that's what this is all about, because we updated the code, and what we put together should be a direct reflection of the town itself. So we're not here to tell a town how to look or what to do or how they should zone themselves. It's a direct reflection of what their desires are. And I think Rib Mountain would be an interesting situation, because you're close to the highway. You'll probably experience development pressure. You'll probably have a need for office space, big blocks. You may have more big blocks pressure. And then having some type of unified development for these types of retail areas. Something that you're probably looking for.
And to add on to that, we're pretty much losing all of our ag, which is fine because there is some to the west of us, plenty of good ag land, but the Hull Farm is, one of the last ones in Root Mountain, and that's gonna be split up, so we'll probably have no ag. But I understand what you're saying. The county wants to give all the towns a vehicle to implement what they
Right.
wanna do.
Right. We want to have, provide an opportunity for each town to be satisfied with the districts that we come up with. So we're trying to be flexible in terms of how we create it.
I'd like to hear from Rick. He comes from McMillan area, which has got kind of the pressure from Marshall, but he also is a supervisor for some of the little more rural areas too, where he was seeing.
We found McMillan, we have a lot of pressure from the Marshville area. We've got some big box stores, actually in the town of McMillan. But the land has been annexed from the town of McMillan into the city of Marshville, which we can't stop. And we also have a division of the river going through to where north and west side of the north and east side of the river, it's all agricultural, pretty much all agricultural, and everything else is subdivision and urban and just different type of living style, fairy tale homes. So we have the infrastructure problem of the agricultural area with the equipment and the different things on the town roads that the residential people want the nicer roads, the slow speed limits, the stuff like that, and they don't want the farm equipment running up and all that. You can't have that because our town years ago, they made a decision to 5-acre lots along the city of Marshall. That created a huge problem. So now we can't show how much houses in there. So we got quite a difference of things. But when you get the whole plain, it's all agricultural. There's very few subdivisions and stuff like that. So,
Are you finding that it's been desirable for those individuals in the McMillan area are they finding the 5-acre tracts to be attractive, or do they want smaller, do they want larger? Has it been
That's changed, because back when they did it, they didn't want the annexation from the city of Marshall. So what happened, as some of the money took over, the land they got in some of the farm tracts, you can't blame them. The farmers wanted to retire, they sold their land off to some of the box stores and different things, annexed into the city. So now these 5-acre parcels are getting surrounded by industry and different things of that nature. They're losing their look that they would call their farmland look.
So you're looking at, what I'm hearing is that you may need mechanisms in place to help protect existing uses and districts that are there, so that you don't have a retail or a light industrial / office or light industry come in and conflict with you.
Right, it's really affecting the property values of the 5-acre homes and the big houses and stuff like that, because all of a sudden you look next door and there's a car lot, or whatever.
Yep,
You need it at the time, you know.
some very high-end homes with Marshville Clinic right down there and everything too, so. Is there anything else that anybody wants to share with?
Is
Visions?
McMillan town zone?
County, under
No,
County.
okay.
And that's a problem. I don't, it's not a problem with that, it's a problem that, well, they're also, what is that?
Farmland preservation.
Farm
Right.
preservation in a residential community. And that's, to me, that's a problem.
Versus general ag?
Well, you have to build roads in order to, you're putting subdivisions in, and now the subdivision roads have to be able to withstand the 92,000-pound weight limits and everything else, so now is it the town's problem, or is it the developer's situation?
Let me ask you a question, would it be McMillan's, the township of McMillan, would it be their desire to keep, receive the benefit of the growth and economic development that's occurring in their area?
Split decision on the board. Couple of the board members feel that the extra development costed the town too much money. And change the tax levy.
So they're still weighing that.
It's always, every election, you get a different swing on it.
Okay.
It flops. It's a very controversial thing, depends on what side of the river you live on.
We know you're on the wrong side of the tracks, we already talked about
I
that.
am, but what happens is that this group of people will go and influence the voting base for that 2 years, and then the others will influence the voting base.
Yeah. It's growing pains. It's exactly.
It's growing pains, it's not gonna change anytime soon.
Okay. So we'll go on to the next one, customer service. We'll discuss a little bit, what we wanted to see is here, what's the town's perspective of the conservation planning and zoning, customer service and technical assistance to the towns and to the town residents. What you've heard in that, it's kind of nice that we have a group that's not all from county zone or all town zone or in that, so. Question again, is what is the town's perspective of CPZ's customer service and technical assistance to the towns and to the town residents?
It hasn't changed.
Well, it really has changed.
Better, worse?
Well, I think the changes have slowed down the response to the people that have questions or comments about zoning. Just my opinion.
Response time decreased. Questions?
Decreased or increased?
Decrease. Response time. I think you're aware of what the change was that took place and what, so.
Any issues that we're not addressing, that we've not appropriately addressed? Any outstanding items? We're perfect, see, we've got the
No,
Do you foresee any improvement? Are there any areas where you think we could improve?
Well, I think you guys, your cup runneth over, for one thing. You're trying to cover a lot more area with fewer people. Then you may not always get the same feedback that the prior system received.
So we're actually out in the field more, we're trying to, is that what I'm
Well, I
hearing
don't know
you
if you're, I don't know that you're on the field more, I guess, I think you guys gotta answer that question yourself, I know you're awful busy. And, so I don't, you know, as your schedules become a lot tighter, are you spread a lot thinner? What's the average response time for people coming to you with questions and getting answers?
Well, we definitely try to utilize our DZAs more and covering more area. I wouldn't say that we're spreading ourselves thinner, we're just trying to be more efficient.
we try to get back within 24 hours or less. And that's usually the case, because, you know, we are out in the field, we are getting an LTE that way, so we try to pick up a little bit some of these inspections. We try to get there within a 24-hour period. A lot of times people still walk in and they can still walk out.
And where I come from, that just didn't happen. So, that's pretty good.
The other thing we've done is trained our deputy zoning administrators quite a bit over the last 3 years. We have fewer of them, and they're covering a little more territory, but they're better trained. They no longer issue permits because that was where most of our errors were. But we provided better training. When those envelopes come in with the permit, usually they're out within 24 hours, again, like Dean was saying with the signed permit. So pretty quick turnaround on those for the most part, unless there might be a conference or something, which a couple of staff are at. But otherwise, Dean or Lane are both on top of them pretty quick.
This last summer was same day permit issuance, which is pretty good.
So looking at administrative, just looking directly at the Conservation Planning and Zoning Director, who would be Rebecca Frisch. The Program Manager, Paul Daigle, Zoning Administrator, myself, Lane as CPZ zoning staff, and all the rest of our staff. We want to know kind of what have you noticed or seen as positive practices that we have directly on administrative ends.
I was just gonna say, I don't have a lot of, so I can't answer a lot of these, I don't have a lot of, we're not as connected to the county. You
Yep.
know, we handle a lot of our own, but I do make calls to our comprehensive plan and stuff like that, and so when an issue comes up for a question, I haven't had no problem, I'm sure my questions are quite simple, but just double checking something or a process or something, and when I call, I get the answer when I go, so I haven't had no
So
issue.
technical assistance is
And that's when I mainly call for backup, right, and I've had no issue.
personally got involved in what I'm involved in now with the county because of issues that happened years ago with some of the people that used to be there. And I find now, at least when we call, if we want to talk to someone, you get someone. And it's more, it's less personal, but it's more, more direct. These are, you know, the rules, this is what we have to follow. And there's explanation behind it. And somebody's, at least now, is looking to see if there's something beyond the question that they can help you with, instead of not so friendly atmosphere, I want to say. You know, you might not always like the answer you get, but you're going to get an answer. And you're going to get a polite, somebody polite to talk to. So, from my perspective, it's definitely got a whole lot better.
I deal with the DNR sometimes, and on that issue what you were talking about, and as far as response time before, I mean, permits with the DNR, you know, those are like, I mean, I waited for one for almost a year. I gave up on it, finally it showed up one day, it went through. I didn't even think they were working on it, here it comes, and to talk to those people, I hope nobody's DNR here, but, very difficult people to talk to, you know, I mean, real straight, real mean, real, never, nothing, you know, how can we help you, it's this way or the road, that, there's no talking, there's no, you know, it's just, so I've had a lot better luck up there with that kind of stuff, and the response time on that thing, you know, when I call it, it's much better, so. And again, there's county and state organizations, so you'd think they'd run somewhat similar, but there's a big variance for what group it is, so.
Picking that guy in front is a little quiet.
You run into anything with administration, or?
Me?
Yep.
Not really.
Okay. Maybe you'll have something on the next one. I don't know if you come in and get a permit or anything from us. Permitting challenges. What we want to look at is, has there been permitting challenges that you've heard about, regulations, also positives. Have you heard about the permitting process that you want to stay, or you think you want to make sure we're knowing about, so when in this process, that we don't lose that aspect of it. You know, we kind of heard, time, I think was one of them. The challenge was, I think, customer service and response time increased. Anything else that you guys?
Do you want to put DNR responses as a challenge?
Well, it stays only on your board, sure.
Oh.
Well, just because they don't put Castle by that.
Can I
No.
have a
It's his town, not ours.
Yeah.
Can I ask one question?
Sure.
With that response, can I ask, do people feel as if there might be recourses if they say something against the county administration or the DNR or the, some of the other programs?
I don't feel that way at all with the county, you know, I'm not threatened, DNR, I watch real close.
You're threatened.
I watch that really close, yeah.
Because that's important to know, you know.
Some of those guys are my customers and clients and stuff, and I respect even them, you know. They're sometimes a different, not all, but they can be a different breed, you know.
Because I'll get phone calls, and that's one of the first things that some people will say is, they don't want to say anything because not with the new group, but the old group, they're always worried about repercussions.
I think there may be some, built-in apprehension about it. I'm calling you about something that I don't have an answer for. I don't need an additional problem. The person on the other end is gonna say, why are you asking the question?
Yeah, why are you asking?
Yeah.
What do we need to look at?
Yeah.
So, permitting
That's a good point that came up, yeah, you don't ask a question that could open up a bag of worms, whether it's for myself or someone else. That, I think whether that be county or anybody, you just try not to do that kind of thing. Especially in day and age with computers, they don't forget nothing.
Anything else that you've heard out in residents out in the area or yourself directly at any permitting challenges, anything like that?
Response time from Corps of Engineers. Yeah, I know you can't control that.
Response time,
Yeah, we can-
DNR and
That's
Corps.
DNR, yeah,
Put slash Corps on there. Army Corps. Okay. Well, the reason we did this little exercise is we did set up that citizen task force. And I didn't, there's 12 members on there, and I didn't introduce them, there's 2 of them here tonight. So everybody felt freely to speak. Richard Doer is our chairman of the Citizen Task Force, and Laura in the back there actually was voted the vice chair at our first meeting. So both of them are on. All this information that we gathered at these here, we're gonna take back to them. So when they're looking at the code, formulating the code, they're gonna be able to keep these things in mind, what the towns are looking for, what challenges are, to make sure when we look at the districts and sizes and everything, are we looking at what, that's why we put by each one, Castle, Red Mountain, Gunther. So when they're looking at it, you go, okay, they wanna see that rural atmosphere. Do we capture that as part of the code? Land use conflicts, are we looking at that, how can, by rezoning, or maybe it's use of conditional use permits. But this task force has to take all this in and look at this as part of this. That's why we're gathering a lot of this information. I do thank you for being open with us. So, getting into the end of it here, I like this quote that I found. An investment in knowledge always pays the best interest. We see it, with the towns, residents, yourself, you took the time to come out here to learn a little bit, gain more knowledge of what we are proposing to do. And we hope that you continue this process and you bring some people along with you as part of this, and gain that knowledge as through the process and be involved with it. But how can you stay updated as part of this? First, we do have a website, we just got it linked up today, out there. It's on the back of the contact sheet. If you go to our, the homepage, it'll be under the conservation planning and zoning page, and then we will be able to go from there. All the updates, all the videos, anything we'll put out there, agendas, when the meetings are going through. That way, we will be up to date. We're gonna have drafts out there as part of it. Newsletters, if you have an email, please leave an email. We'll get quarterly newsletters. This is not just on the zoning comprehensive division. This is our CPZ newsletter. So it does everything from our ag to planning, the comp plan, to the zoning comprehensive revision, all that. There's on the back page, it usually tells what the town, we've issued as a county for permits in those towns. All that, so it's great information. We've been trying to get these out quarterly. They come out right about the time of the Eastern and Western Towns Association meetings. Also, we just launched Facebook. I'm sure some of you are on Facebook. We ask you to go out and like it. We can do notifications. we're using this for our entire department, it's not just zoning. DOT stuff will be out there, about transportation, zoning, we're gonna be able to put out links to agendas, and get notified then basically of different public hearings, public meetings, all part of that. Then we're also gonna have workshops that'll be directed right at the town level. Working on updating the maps, relationships between the zoning and comprehensive plans, talking about that, educating the town boards on decision makings for rezoning and permitting. We just don't wanna go in and, okay, let's work on your map. That's one task of this, but we wanna bring more education to you. So how to use this map. When your town is sitting at that town board meeting, making that decision, where you can make a solid decision, okay, yep, this is our comp plan, works with this, our zoning, okay, got the right down the checklist. Sure.
Just to add on to that as well, when we get to that time where we are reviewing the maps, it's extremely important to try to coordinate with your adjacent towns, villages, cities, so that you're collaborating with one another, so that it's not a surprise that you may be zoning something in a particular district that may create a conflict with their planning. So you can coordinate your efforts. And it really helps in terms of communicating back and forth between the towns or among towns, so you eliminate some of the conflicts that may arise or misunderstandings. The more you communicate with your neighboring unit of government, it will help with that process too.
And it's not just the towns, it would be the villages and everything, too, looking at everything that's a part of that. Because, you know, you got the village of Athens, village of Edgar, Marathon City, village of Marathon City here, you know, there's all different things, what everybody looks at, but it's so everybody knows where everybody's on the same page. So, then the biggest one is, you know, feel free to contact any of us on here. We made the contact sheet, full sheet with all of our information on there, email, call us, stop into our office, feel free to talk to us at any point as part of that. You know, it's not just questions, but if you have a concern over something, if you want us to look at something during this process, any of that, feel free. And either me and Jeff will probably be the best contact for it. I can go to any one of them that are up there, and we'll pass that information on to that citizen task force, along with us looking at it. So, again, I'd like to thank you for coming out tonight, spending an evening with us. I know, Paul, before we leave, I know you would like to say a couple words.
I think we can skip the line.
Okay.
It's fine.
Okay.
That would be.
Does our chair of the task force have any parting words?
No, other than if anybody wants to contact me, is our information's on there also?
Your information's not on that portion, but if they contact us, everything's gonna get directed right to our task force.
Anybody can feel free to call me. My information's on the county website
Yep.
anyway, under District 29. And feel free to call me, or if you want to talk to me directly or whatever, not a problem. We have to hear from the citizens in order to make this whole thing work. You know, get the words out, you know, to talk to anybody.
And you're free what days in the week?
What's that?
I said you're free what days in the week?
Pretty much, pretty much anytime.
And
I
we
do
are,
answer my phone.
we are too, so if you have any questions at any time, feel free to call us, come see us.
Please.
I would say if you have candid comments that you could make them to Richard or Laura that maybe you are a little afraid of challenges or retribution or anything like that. If you are,
Yeah.
Richard's our supervisor.
Bring
He's
them
elected
to me.
supervisor.
and
Laura's on the task force.
Right.
Call them and they're not gonna, they're gonna take it you know, at face value and bring it back to the committee and anonymously and incorporate that into the changes. We're here to listen and move forward and not look back, but try to get a code that meets your community's needs and that your citizens want to have.
And to me, it doesn't matter what township you live in or what your name is. If you have a concern about this department or about the zoning, that's what we get elected for. You know, definitely get a hold of us, you know.
The task force isn't made up of all county zone towns. There's town zone, county zone, no zone townships that are on there, and some county board people, some residents, you know, it's a wide variety of people. Laura comes from a more urban, we got Arnie Schley, who's out of Easton, fairly rural, and so we have all aspects of it, so. And any of those, if they're a town chairman, you can see on there, any of those, you can ask and talk to them, they're willing to bring that stuff back. That's part of their job description, is be the communication between this committee, or the task force, and the towns, specifically their town, but even the border towns too, to get all that information out there, talk to people, collect that information, bring it back, and they're meeting about once a month, to discuss stuff, go through stuff and all that, so they're meeting at a regular basis. So it's not we're a 3-month period, they come in, you have to wait and so.
All the meetings are posted also,
Yep.
and there's always a 15-minute period for questions and stuff, and audience participation at those meetings, so if anybody has any questions or anything that they'd like to say at that time, there'll be an opportunity every single month for someone to come in if, you don't want to contact them just directly, so.
Plus, it's our intent that as we develop the plan, we'll post a draft section of it on the website. So if you have an opportunity, if you have a computer, you take the time to review it. And if you have any questions at that point, we're still in the development phase of it. We could always address any concerns. So please feel free to contact us at any time. That's what we're here for.
Is there any questions from anybody, or?
I guess only a comment on the planning, seeing she's here from Remalton. It's amazing how townships join each other and how they're so different. I mean, you got Remalton, growing, and then you got Town of Marathon that doesn't want a house in a township. So you got two opposites joining each other. Well, they gotta go somewhere, people, right? We're next in line, so whatever they do affects us, even though we're township between. We get all the housing pressure, but yet you don't get the town and people, the town of Castle don't want the 40 acres and they still want to control their land, they want all this. But yet, when Remalton expands, they jump across that township and come into ours, and it makes a big difference. How do you plan for that? Economy has a lot to do with it, everything has a lot to do with it.
And that's why I said, always communicate with your neighboring town.
Right.
I mean,
Or two
you
counties.
have to think,
Right,
Yeah.
what you just said,
Yeah,
that's really important
we can't control what
information.
you do or what town, and it does have a big effect on us. We were putting houses up left and right, not like you, of course. For where we are and the quality of our land in Castle, there's a lot of poor land. For that area, we were building too many houses. It's just, everywhere you go, there's houses. And everybody wants their 30, nobody wants 2 acres, they all want 10, 20, 30. And, it makes it really difficult. We've had road issues this year, major road issues.
You're saying Marathon didn't want the housing?
Oh, they hate houses. If you don't keep it, these guys don't keep it.
The town of Marathon is very strict on agricultural.
They don't want to divide it up?
Farmland.
Oh, they don't.
rezoning.
Yeah.
98% is probably farmland preservation.
Very few rezone requests go through.
Yeah, almost nothing.
and that's fine.
And
That's their desire.
And that's why-
And that's not the village of Marathon, that's
No,
the town.
no,
of
it's the town.
Marathon.
Township, which joins you.
So
And that's why Remalter wants did not ever come our way yet. Others, we would be swallowed up already, but it goes all other ways, and they stop it at their boundary. almost 100%. I mean, for a while when the housing was good, they were still only at 8 houses. Guy brought it up once, well, they still got housing. One guy said they should be 7,500 houses a year, and they're doing 8, I mean, for a township joining Remalton, that's 8 houses a year. Now it's in the good years, and that's doing pretty good, So they did what they wanted, and if you talk to Keith, I said, well, someday you're gonna have to give in. No way. They have no intention of
We
giving
didn't
in.
want a bunch.
Well, and see, and that's the beauty of having a well thought out plan or your comp plan. That's why we're gonna
Right.
talk about how to use the comp plan and the zoning code together, because
Yeah.
it helps protect what your desires are as
Yeah.
a unit of government.
But it really makes it hard for us, that's why we got stuck with that feed mill up by us, right where the most houses are, right on 107, they stuck a feed mill in the middle. Now, one of the biggest houses there is sitting vacant, the guy pulled out, moved to Wassey, had some bad luck, so he got some money. And he moved to Remilton, bought a house, he's $300,000 house in there, empty now. The noise and the dust, and it's right in your backyard, and anything you can do about it, and whether, I've seen that happen in county zoning, town zoning, I've seen it on all zoning. Things like that happen, and, they just know the right people, they got the variances from the state before the meeting at the town hall. They already had the variances on the state highway, it's supposed to be 1,000 feet, the nearest resident. They already had it down to 400 feet before. The guy called the next day at the meeting, said, oh, they went way above me, don't even talk to me about it. He went right to our boss, that was all changed, they knew the right people, people with money have access, and we all know that, I don't care what level that's on, it's just.
So we have to have local approval.
And 40 people at the board, 1 person for it, because he sold them a machine in the past years, like 5 years before that, and it still went through as fast as could be. No problem. Three board members put it through. Now we got a 5-man board on there for that reason, to try to diversify, get those, it was a little cluster, and now we try to get from here, we try to get them, and we put 5 people, just did that recently, I did that myself. Try to stop that stuff from happening to the next person, but it's tough play. It's hard to get really good board members, let's put it that way. That'll actually work for the people, not for their best interest, And when you only have 3 people on your little township, it doesn't make nothing to twist an arm.
Well, that's where we wanna look at some of the education too. And we're not limited to just the people that have adopted county zoning now, but it's for everybody, because at some point you may wish to adopt county zoning. If you don't, there's still that you want to protect, certain things in your town, and to use zoning as that tool. But there's certain ways of doing that, and to be very good.
See, the interesting thing is, I would always sell zoning on the standpoint that, most people are opposed to zoning because they feel it infringes upon the property rights. And I would make the argument just the opposite.
It is, that was designed for originally to protect you, right, but a lot of people don't do it that way.
So that kept at 1,000-foot setback for a feed mill from the nearest resident?
Well, that commercial property was supposed to be 1,000 feet, according to state highway, state statute or something, it was supposed to be 1,000 feet, at least that's what they said at the meeting. But anyway, it was already brought down to 400 feet before it was even approved, so. And now, with the engine braking, and because we don't meet, we worked on that, because there's not a speed restriction, I'm sure you know that, you gotta have like 3 out of 10 things, and we don't qualify for that, so you can imagine in the fall, and this is all hours of the night, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it includes Sunday night at 2 in the morning, all these big farm trucks with these straight pipes, Jake brakes, you can't stand it, it's unbearable up there, let's put it that way, and there's not a thing you can do about it, there's not, it's because we don't have control of it, it's a state highway, and you can't, I said, well, it's a township castle, right, we should have some say what goes there, well, you gotta meet this and this, I mean, we get variances, he said, you got a unique situation, and again, poor zoning, I won't get into it, but, we got a huge trucking place down the road from us with these, 300-foot long semis, on a road that's posted, okay, in the spring, okay, a county road, they can't make no corners, well, you get all that traffic, then you get the feed, no traffic, so the engine braking in that area is unbelievable, but yeah, we don't. He said because of that unique situation, you could probably get a variance, and you go through all these processes, well, people are just moving instead, you're gonna see, probably see more of that in there, it's just not a good situation, that noises.
All of these towns have these unique situations. You know how many acres of land are owned out in our township by the county now? It's over 4,000, I think, 4,800. And of course, when they logged that, you got the big log trucks running up and down all of our town roads. And you can imagine what they do to town roads. Yeah. I'm not sure how zoning can deal with anything like that.
That's
Road
infrastructure.
That's it.
That's a different category. That's a grease pot.
You can swap logs.
Come back to the vision.
Get in Western Marathon County, you can swap logs for manure, and
Yeah.
we deal with, big tractors pulling big loads and the same exact issues on town roads.
Cody, I've seen some of these roads out there, where you get those big wagons, they'll actually push a road right into the ditch.
Yeah.
Oh.
Again, thank you again for taking time out to come out, so.
And feel free to contact us.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys.
Does anybody know the rules under road issues? We gave a guy a fine here just recently. He's got a fight it with we charged him for damage to the road, it was a $1,000 bill. We had to close the road, it was on its drivable to mud. Charge him for it. County doesn't own it.
Thanks for coming.